I'm Natalie, and welcome back to News4Teens. While the contributions of women to history, culture, and society should be recognized every day, March is dedicated as Women's History Month here in the US, as well as other countries like the UK and Australia. In this video, I'm going to summarize the history of how this recognition came about in the US and highlight some key milestones and notable women throughout US history. So how did Women's History Month come about? First, it's important to note that International Women's Day, a global celebration of the achievements of women, first took place on March 8, 1911. Since 1975, International Women's Day has been sponsored by the United Nations. In 1978, an education task force from Santa Rosa, California, initiated a Women's History Week, choosing the week of March 8th to further recognize, honor, and celebrate American women's achievements. Support for national recognition increased thereafter. President Jimmy Carter issued the first presidential proclamation declaring the week of March 8, 1980 as National Women's History Week. He messaged, "From the first settlers who came to our shores, from the first American Indian families who befriended them, men and women have worked together to build this nation. Too often, the women were unsung and sometimes their contributions went unnoticed. But the achievements, leadership, courage, strength, and love of the women who built America was as vital as that of the men whose names we know so well." By 1986, 14 states had already declared the whole month of March as Women's History Month. With the increased momentum and the results of successful rallying, in 1987, Congress declared March as National Women's History Month. Since 1995, a special presidential proclamation has been issued every year designating March as Women's History Month. In President Biden's recent proclamation, he stated, "This month, as we continue our work to advance gender equity and equality, let us celebrate the contributions of women throughout our history and honor the stories that have too often gone untold. Let us recognize that fundamental freedoms are interconnected. When opportunities for women are withheld, we all suffer. And when women's lives are improved, we all gain. Let us strive to create a nation where every woman and girl knows that her possibilities know no bounds in America." Ready to test your knowledge on some key milestones and notable women in U.S. history? There's so many, but here are a few I would like to highlight. In 1776, Abigail Adams wrote a letter to her husband, founding father John Adams, to remember the ladies when envisioning a government for the American colonies. In 1848, Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Stanton helped organize the first Women's Rights Convention, which launched decades of activism. Stanton and Mott, along with Susan B. Anthony and other activists, lobbied the government to grant women voting rights, which eventually led to the passage of the 19th Amendment in 1920. In 1955, Rosa Parks' refusal to give up her seat for a white man on a bus helped launch the Civil Rights Movement, which sought for social justice and equal rights under U.S. laws. In the 1960s, achievements included President John F. Kennedy signing into law the Equal Pay Act of 1963, which prohibits pay discrimination between men and women performing the same job in the same workplace, and President Lyndon B. Johnson signing into law the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which ended segregation in public places and banned employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. In 1972, President Richard Nixon signed into law Title IX of the Education Amendments, which in short requires educational institutions to provide fair and equal treatment of the sexes in all areas, including athletics. The historical tennis match in 1973, known as the Battle of the Sexes, Billie Jean King beating Bobby Riggs, was about more than tennis. With an estimated 90 million people watching the match, King won in 3 straight sets, demonstrating the skill of female athletes and raising awareness for gender equality. King has a long history of advocating for women and the LGBTQ+ community. As for women in leadership positions in the U.S. government, in 1981, President Ronald Reagan swore in Sandra Day O'Connor as the first woman to serve in the U.S. Supreme Court. In 2007, U.S. Representative Nancy Pelosi became the first female Speaker of the House. In 2016, Hillary Clinton became the first woman to receive a presidential nomination from a major political party. In 2021, Kamala Harris became the first woman and first woman of color Vice President of the United States. Although I've highlighted a few of the more recognizable women, there are many more women who've played an important role throughout history. Although women, like those of every representation, should be celebrated every day, it's helpful to have this month to give us an opportunity to think about the women that haven't received the recognition they deserve and to share their stories. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something new.